think about it day and night. I feel like a king, oh yeah. And baby, can't help but stare. Such a rush, baby. Oh, when you touch me, baby. Such a rush, baby. When you love me, baby.
Good afternoon and welcome to Viva ENT. This is Eric C.C. Ryder. Thanks for tuning in. Johnny, the host of the show, unable to make it in today, but we've got a fantastic show ahead for you, so make sure you stay tuned. Coming up in the second half of the show, our talent coordinator, Jerry Osborne, has managed to book Donna Fargo on the show today, and we'll be talking to her and getting to know a little bit more about her and her fantastic career.
Donna Fargo.
I'm the happiest girl in the whole USA.
Donna Fargo, whose hits include The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA and Funny Face, Grammy Award winner and winner of awards from the Academy of Country Music and the Country Music Association. So this is going to be very cool to learn more about Donna Fargo and get to talk to her coming up in the second half of the show. For the first half of the show, we've got a special interview we did recently on the show with Chris Montez, who is also a fantastic singer, songwriter, and you'll learn more about him right now.
Hold me tight, don't you let me go. Listen, listen. Go to the twist and stop to my potato too. Any old damn that you wanna do, but listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, cats and chicks, you're listening to Viva ENT, as I promised, bringing the rock legends to Seattle every single week. On the air right now is Jerry Osborne, my talent coordinator, and Mr. Chris Montez. Jerry, introduce our guest.
Well, you just did. You stole my act.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, okay,
Hey, Chris.
according to Johnny, this is Chris Montez. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome to the gig.
Hey, I'm glad to be on the gig.
Yeah.
You know, we're really happy to have you back. I told you I was going to ask you a little trivia question that you might need your thinking cap for. And
All right.
this is not anything that we ever talked about before, so this will take
All
you by
right.
surprise.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me.
I know very well, as you probably do, your first record was "I Lost My Baby," right? Guaranteed.
I might have. It might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Trust me.
I thought it was. Yeah, maybe so.
That was before Monogram, so this has got to be the first.
All you had to do was tell me.
No,
yeah.
that's later.
Okay. Well, yeah. I lost my baby with someone new. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
Wow.
that you did obviously with Barry DeVorzon.
That's right. You're right.
See? But what I don't know, and I'm hoping you might remember, is who is the sax player on that record or that session?
Oh man, you got me there.
Because you got a really good sax going there, and I'd like to know who it is, but I don't know if you're going to know or not.
No, I won't know. I don't know because when you're young, they might have put the saxophone after I did my voice.
I don't know. They didn't do that much though. That back in those days, did they?
Well, yes and no.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just thought you might know. I mean, it sounded like it could have been
yes, right.
somebody that that is well known for playing on sessions.
Yeah, no. If they would have thrown a name, I don't remember some of the people that played on it.
All right. Well, we'll give you a pass. We'll give you a bye on that.
God, I was looking forward to winning that big prize on spin the wheel.
I'm curious to see if it was maybe Nino Tempo, because he was.
Well, see, he's an example of a session sax player that's been on more stuff than even he remembers.
Yeah, because Nino has been on our show too.
And, well, okay. Here's another way to ask this.
Okay.
Do you recall if that was done in L.A. or not?
Yes, it was done at Ghost Star.
Could have been Nino.
Ah.
Yeah, could have been Nino.
Probably.
Wow.
Wow, that's interesting.
See, you got two rock historians here on the radio, man.
And you may not know this, but that record was on the radio and actually on their survey in Phoenix on KRUX, and I lived in Phoenix for 16 years, and
Wow.
I didn't know if you knew that was actually played, like 8 hours away from where you were.
Wow.
No, I know that we have some play, but when you're a young kid, you don't realize all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
All I remember is I was talking to Brian Highland, and I said, man, you remember, because we just got through doing a show together, and I said, remember all the places we had, because we were in New Mexico, and we're going to New Mexico, and you see all these fields, and I saw a little building with a big antenna, and I said, remember when we used to have to, I remember driving to these little radio stations to do, to promote my songs.
Yes.
And that was a long gig. Those are long trips.
So, that's interesting, Chris, when you say when you were a young kid, because I know that I read your bio and stuff. I know that you started really young. Tell our listeners when your first recording, maybe not your first hit, but your first recording actually got released.
That's the one I'm talking about right now. It came out in December of 60.
I was just going on 16.
Okay, cool.
Probably.
Very cool. So you were 16.
Yeah.
And basically not even out of high school, and here you are recording and getting into this big a business that can often be overwhelming. Tell us about some of your experience there.
Well, it all started with I decided, because I had a little band, and I decided to make a demo record.
Right.
And I just, by fluke, I decided to do this because I wanted to make a record. And then when I made this demo, I came home and I played it for my mom, and it was just like, wow, I made a disc. And that was the end of it. I kept coming home from school watching the Dick Clark show, but I never intended to be a rock and roll star or a rock and roll singer or whatever however you want to categorize it. But and one day my mother said, there's somebody calling you, and they said, they want to speak to you about recording. I said to myself, no, come on, Mom. And she said, and my mother never spoke English, so she gives me this number, and she got it right. And when I called, it was Barry DeVore's on it.
Oh.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's how it all began.
I remember that from our last interview, you were saying that Richie Valens was a big influence on you.
Yeah, he was. Because he was a great inspiration. Because when I found out Valens was a Mexican, I said, "You gotta be kidding!" I mean, he's the only Mexican rock and roller I ever heard of that was doing the kind of stuff that I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
What's really interesting is that La Bamba being such a legendary classic hit, that O'Donna was actually charted higher. Yeah. I believe that. When I reflect back, I remember one of my oldest brothers came home one day from wherever they were, and they played guitar, and my brother started playing that song, La Bamba, and I never heard it before. And I said, wow, that's a great song. And so I had him do it a couple times, and then that was the end of it. I never ever heard that song again until Richie Valens recorded it. Yeah, according to legend, it was kind of a folk-type song.
Yeah, it was a folk song, Yeah.
Came out of the background and right up to the top of the pop charts.
That's right.
Well, Johnny,
being
the Italian that you are, Johnny.
Oh, actually, I'm Mexican American too.
Oh, you are?
I am.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm Mexican American.
I know.
I grew up with my mother. I remember when I was a little kid, early in the morning, I tried to get up early when my father went to work to show him I was, impressing. I was a man, always ready to go, to school. That was my image of myself. And I hear this like cymbal going, shh, and I hear boom, 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 boom. And it was my mother rolling tortillas, and the frying was the bacon and refried beans.
Right.
That sizzling.
Well, in the Mexican American households, breakfast was a big thing.
Yeah, and I never. Yes, true, because we always just, and it's funny, it's ironic you say that because I never grew up with milk around the house that much. I always just drank coffee. I remember going to school before I left school. I had tortillas and beans, and then I drink my coffee, and I'm off to school.
Yeah, we always had tortillas, beans, green chili, eggs, for breakfast.
Yeah,
that type of thing. Bacon, sausage, whatever.
Bacon. And refried beans.
Gotta have the refried beans.
Chris, what city were you in at the time when you were 16 and so forth?
I was in Hawthorne, California.
Oh, with the Beach Boys.
Yeah, those bums. Yeah, I used to hang out with them all the time. I had Brian in a couple of my classes and Carl. And I remember having this, I lived in this little shack, and I used to go and visit them. We used to jam together, and I'd go and jam and hang out with them. I remember sitting at, Brian would be at the piano, and Dennis and Carl would be playing, and we'd be, whatever came up, because that rock and roll was really in, like Chuck Berry and those things.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Dennis said to me, "Hey, Chris, do you like malts?" And I was a big ice cream freak, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I love them." He says, "Want me to make you one?" I said, "You got to be kidding." So he puts his blender on, which I wasn't, aware of how to make a malt, and I thought it was. And he said, "You know what the secret is?" He said, "No." He says, "You just put a couple scoops of malt in it." And he shows me this can. And, man, it was a great malt, vanilla malt he made me. I'll never forget that.
See, if I wouldn't have asked you, and you wouldn't have said Hawthorne, we would have never gotten that Beach Boys story out of you. That's great.
Oh, yeah. I used to hang out with them. I remember one class, in our science class, there was a man named Mr. Gittinger. He's our teacher. And one time he says, he got a call and he says, "I got to leave. Brian, take over the class." He was like 6'2" or something, bald, And the one funny thing about him was when it was hot, he'd always wipe his forehead, with his handkerchief he had, and sometimes he'd blow his nose and then wipe his forehead, And we just went on, there was not really air conditioning in his class, and so when the teacher got up and says, "Brian, you take over the class." So Brian Wilson gets up and he imitates him to a T. "All right, kids, okay, settle down now." And he pull out and he wipe his forehead, and we'd be laughing and laughing, And at that time, when we were laughing so much, and the teacher comes in, we all straightened out. I'll never forget that incident. It was a funny thing.
It's kind of ironic that you were knowing them at that time because you actually had a bigger hit first before they did.
Yeah.
All you had to do was tell me before they had surfing, so you really were on the charts before they were.
Yeah, I just, I remember standing in front of the house after I go visit, and was standing in front of Brian's house because I lived down the street, and I said, he said, "Yeah, we're going to do a recording." And I said, "Oh, good." He said, "We're going to record." And I said, and he said, "Do you know what we're going to call ourselves?" I said, "No." He said, "The Beach Boys." And I said to myself, "The Beach Boys, what a strange name, because I don't really consider you guys Beach Boys because I do more surfing than you guys do." The only one that did a lot of surfing was Dennis. But I was always in the water, and so I said, "Well, they want to call me, Chris Montez. I'm recording. I'm going to record." "Oh, good." And that was the end of it. And sometimes I do a show, and they'd be on it, and we do a show, and I say, "See you guys later. Bye, Chris," and that was it. But never realizing, how phenomenal and huge they were going to become.
Yeah, they definitely put their mark on pop rock history, and so did you. And one of the reasons too is that when you went to England to tour England, and the Beatles were your opening act, and they saw that haircut of yours. Chris, there's no denying that if you Google images of Chris Montez 1962, you had the Beatle haircut pre-Beatle.
Well, sort of, yeah. Well, what was I think the connection the Beatles and I make, other than hanging out and the screaming girls always cheering at us, was that when I finished the tour with them, I wore this jacket I bought in L.A. A couple of coats that I used to go on stage with, and they were round collarless.
Right.
And everybody wanted to buy these coats from me, and I thought to myself, because when I acquired this jacket, the guy says, "Yeah, this is the in thing in England." He sort of dressed me, and take this coat and take this coat. And when I went there, and I said to myself, "What a bum! He he told me this was the in jacket, which wasn't, you know. So, but to make a long story short, you know, John and Paul always took me to the tailors, and I had some suits, and I had the shoes made, you know, the Beatle boots they call.
Right.
And so when the last day, and it was at Liverpool, I think that's where we finished, and Paul and John are talking to the you know, the tailor, and they said, I went to say goodbye. They said, "Oh, you remember that tailor? Yeah, hey, nice to see you." I said, and I had him sign my book, and they said, "Oh, by the way, I hope you don't mind, but we're designing our jackets, our coats like the ones you wear." And I thought nothing. I said, "Oh, that's cool. Then good. That's cool." And that's the last of it.
You know, those Beatle boots were also known as Spanish boots.
Yeah, of course.
And Elvis was wearing those boots in some of his early movies in the '60s, even before the Beatles started wearing.
Well, especially in Fun in Acapulco.
Fun in Acapulco,
yeah, right. They were like flamenco boots.
Exactly. Yeah. Matter of fact, when I was in junior high, I was wearing those boots, and a little bit before the Beatles, probably, and we used to call them Spanish boots.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Well,
the Beatles, as great as artists as they are, and all the credit that they do deserve, they basically took from all the resources they had in pop, rock,
blues, country.
Exactly. As far as music and fashion, you know, they kind of put it all together. You know, kind of like Michael Jackson did with James Brown and Jackie Wilson.
Yeah,
you know, they took a little bit of Buddy Holly, they took a little bit of Beach Boys, a little bit of Your Style, a little bit of Presley in some way, and they came up with this great new formula. So all artists, you know, that reach that high level like they did, all emulate and borrow a little of this, borrow a little of that from their heroes and the stars before them.
I that's exactly right. You know, I mean, they took the rock and roll that we sort of forgot about, the rhythm and blues, and they put it back in our face and put a little flavor to it, and it was a great rave. It was nice.
What?
Yeah, he had that soul. Paul McCartney has that soul like that.
He sure did.
Speaking of Little Richard, Chris, did you ever do any gigs with him?
You know what? It's funny. I did it. I was doing a tour with Little Eva and myself and Bobby V and everything, and we were doing a show together for a couple of days, and we're with Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Wow!
And they got up and done a few songs together. But somebody told me, you know, that was the first time they hadn't spoken to each other for 30 years or something like that. Never played together.
Who's that now?
Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard.
They hadn't spoken together? They hadn't.
They hadn't been on stage over 30 years, and they never spoke to each other. And that day when I always happened to be with them, you know, they got up and sang together and rocked together, you know. It was quite a situation.
How long
just
ago was
that
this
they got
now?
together.
When was this, Chris?
In England.
What year?
Geez, it's got to be about 15 years ago or more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's funny because it was exciting to watch them, you know.
Yeah, and they're both still kicking, man.
Yeah, they're both kicking. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Little Richard says, Chris Montez, he says, "Oh, Chris, you know, brother, I always thought you were black." It made me laugh.
Did you tell him that you used to be?
Yeah, but you know, prior to that Beatles tour, I had just got through doing a tour with Sam Cooke. I did his two major ones.
Wow.
He wanted me on, so I got to hang out with the boys, you know, Chuck, the Drifters, Smokey Robinson, I see the Drifters, Smokey Robinson, and Jerry Butler, all these heavyweights for weeks.
Yeah.
Going through those towns where it says black and white only, I never saw that in my life.
Wow. Well,
So I got to
you
experience
being
that.
from California,
Yeah.
you know, you didn't see that in California, but you go down
No,
south and you
no.
see that, and it's like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I faced the same prejudice here in California when I was growing up. Cops would always pull me over,
Yeah.
check me for drugs, and I would see for I was just a young kid. But they, what's that profile of me? That was the word then.
Well,
Not then, but is today.
I'm dark complected, and I went through the same thing when I was a young man. But I hate to get political on our show, which I never do. But since you mentioned it, it's guys out there. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It's the way you handle yourself when they approach you.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal.
No.
Do what they ask you to, and guess what? If you comply, chances are nothing's going to happen to you other than maybe get a ticket.
Which you probably deserved.
Right. Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
But may I return to that first record? There's another thing I want to ask you about that.
Okay.
Again, just to refresh everyone's memory, the first record, the A-side is I Lost My Baby, and it's on the Guaranteed label.
Yeah,
2 weeks
that's
ago,
right.
on our show, where you are right now, Chris, we had one of the two biggest artists on that label, Paul Evans.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever cross paths with him when you and he were both on the same label?
No, I don't think I did.
But you remember some of his records, of course.
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah, we had him on the show 2 weeks ago. It was a great interview.
Yeah, he had
beautiful.
4 big songs for Elvis, and what was that one big hit that he had? Oh, he had.
Well, he had 7 Little Girls Sitting in the Backseat, Midnight Special, Happy Go Lucky Me.
Wow.
He had a number of hits.
But he wrote
a great
Roses
song.
Are Red. Is that correct?
What?
Didn't he write Roses Are Red?
He did for Bobby Vinton. Well, he didn't write it for Bobby Vinton, but Bobby Vinton made the hit out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's
We're down to
wonderful.
about 3 minutes, Chris. I want to give you the opportunity to tell our listeners here in Seattle about what's coming up with you now.
Well, let's see. I'm getting ready to go. I'm going to do 35 concerts in Europe next year. I'm going to Belgium before that.
I envy
And
you.
then
That's great.
And then I've got some. I just signed with an agent who wants to represent me here in the States, and we're going to start rolling probably in this month or something.
Cool, man.
Wow.
So it's going to be good.
Can Johnny and I be your roadies?
Yeah, why not? If you can handle the running around and all that.
I'll send somebody to be your roadie.
You are a delight, Mr. Montez.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Pleasure to have you on our show today. We got to get you on again.
All right.
And I will post this show on your Facebook page, Chris Montez.
All right.
And I'll give you the link to the audio archive and everything. And thank you so much, sir, for being on.
Well, yeah, I like to say God bless America, and how I feel strongly about standing on rock. Everything's possible with God. All things are possible.
I love it.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
We'll talk again.
Everybody stay tuned as Viva ENT returns with Jerry Osborne and special guest Donna Fargo. That's coming up after these words from our sponsors. Stay tuned.
There's somebody thinking of you. I'm the one who never hurt you. Maybe that's because I love you. Call me. Don't be afraid you can.
This is Johnny the Gangster with Viva Productions, King of Entertainment. One-stop shop for all your entertainment needs. We have DJ service for weddings, corporate, and private events. Thrill your guests with Vegas Nights Casino Party, blackjack, craps, roulette, poker, and more. We also have event photography and limousine service. Call Viva Productions 206-542-5733 or find us at viva-productions.com. A little less conversation, a little more action, you got it. Call Johnny the Gangster. I'll make you a deal you can't refuse.
Is your vehicle needing some attention? Take it over to Maddie's Tuning and Shoreline for fast, affordable car care. Trusted, professional. Maddie's services all makes and models and has been trusted in the Puget Sound for almost 60 years. Call Brian Matty at 206-364-3347 or stop by his convenient location in Shoreline right on Aurora at 152nd. Matty's Tuning. Call 206-364-3347. Trusted for almost 60 years to keep you safe and on the road.
Life's a celebration. Grand Event Rentals makes your event their top priority. They are your full-service, special event, and party rental provider, supplying everything you need from start to finish. Their professional sales team and event staff work with you to create your dream event. With every event, Grand Event Rentals customers' needs are the most important. Whether you're planning an intimate outdoor wedding or an elaborate black tie gala, the Grand Event Rentals specialists make great pride in providing our event planning experience to help create an unforgettable event. Please go and visit the Bellevue Showroom, Grand Event Rentals, or make a one-on-one appointment. Talk to them. They're trained, they're knowledgeable, they're event specialists, and they are going to take you through step-by-step everything that you need to make your day a success. Call Grand Event Rentals. Their number is 425-462-7368, or go to grandeventrentalslaw.com.
Attention business owners. Experience a new world of business with barter. The Saturn Barter Company, located in Tacoma, is one of the most beneficial business decisions you can make. Using Saturn Barter, you are able to sell your products or services to other members of the exchange. You can then use that credit you've built up from your sales to purchase the products or services you or your company needs from other companies within Saturn Barter, all without the use of cash. Contact and join Saturn Barter Club today, 253-212-9930, or online at SaturnBarter.com.
Brides, do you want your big day to be stress-free, perfect, and stay within your budget? Well, Brides Club has all the inside information to make your dream a reality. Go to bridesclub.com. That's bridesclub.com. See upcoming bridal shows and events, view wedding vendors and special offers. And don't miss The Spotlight, the premier online wedding magazine with valuable articles you can't afford to miss. Brides Club helps make your wedding stress-free and perfect. Go to bridesclub.com. Check out bridesclub.com.
Dr. Amanda Wong and the team at Art of the Smiles provides comprehensive dental services at affordable prices. Their convenient location in Federal Way and their extended hours fits the needs of both families and working professionals. Whether it's transforming your smile through some of their cosmetic therapies or simply having your teeth cleaned, Art of the Smiles provides individualized care plans that address your priorities and needs. Visit artofthesmiles.com or call 253-839-4048. That's 253-839-4048 for same-day scheduling. Most insurance is accepted, from cosmetic procedures to implant placement, molar root canals treatment, or wisdom teeth extractions.
Organic, free range, and fresh daily. Alternative Talk 1150.
Good morning.
And thanks for staying tuned to Viva ENT. I'm Eric C.C. Ryder, producer for the show, and on the line right now is Jerry Osborne, talent coordinator for Viva ENT, and he's going to introduce our special guest for this half hour. Jerry, how are you, sir?
Oh, I am just shell-struck by today's guest. I have adored her from afar for decades, and I was so thrilled when I was able to actually talk to her and arrange to have her on the show today. But, you know, there are artists where you love the songs they've written, or you love the performances they've done, the musicianship that they have shown over the years. But more than that, I love the person that Donna Fargo is, and I welcome her to the show. And, Donna, I'm speechless.
Oh, Jerry, now you're not speechless. I know you.
Well, I'm just so happy to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to talk to you, and hi to Eric, too. I'm just so excited.
Well, I want to know, were you able to sleep last night because you were so excited knowing today I was going to inform you of this astonishing fact about your career that we talked about yesterday?
Of course not. It doesn't take much to keep me awake.
Well, all right. I'm glad. And I feel responsible for that. We'll get to that in a moment or two. First of all, we are very excited to have your new CD, which is titled That Was Yesterday, and our mutual friend Kerry Mansfield is one who was instrumental in getting us together today. But anyway, he sent that up to me a few weeks ago, and it's an amazing collection of a lot of the tracks that you did for Warner Brothers. So whose idea was this, yours, Kerry's, or was it mine?
No, it was Kerry's, and I was so delighted when he called me and said he was going to do that, and I helped him collect some of those pictures and put in my 2 cents worth about the additional tracks that he was going to use, but he has a mind of his own. But that's all right. It was his project, and I'm just delighted, and I love Kerry to pieces.
Well, it's a terrific collection, and it's a good way for people to get a good assortment of the songs that you did for Warner Brothers from 76 through 81, as I recall.
That's right.
Donna, you had 38 charted hits on the country charts, and you had multiple hits every year from 1972 all the way into 84. I mean, you were just on the charts constantly, and I don't know, not everybody could say this, but a great deal of those you wrote yourself, didn't you?
I did. I had the most success, actually, Jerry, with the songs that I wrote. I think it was, I really think that my writing was the key to my success, besides my husband inspiring most of the songs. And, you know, the record companies and the DJs who contributed that really picked some of the singles, you know, that the record company might not have picked. So, and special thanks to the fans, you know, for hearing something that spoke to their hearts maybe and inspired something in their souls.
You definitely talk to the hearts of your fans, that's for sure. Speaking of heartfelt things, I cannot let this day pass without asking you, I don't have to say what was the inspiration behind the project, but behind the lyrics that you did on Loving You in 1977 when you found that Elvis had died.
Well, you know, we were on the way to L.A. To approve the album, Shame on Me, that song was going to be in. But I didn't know, I mean, I hadn't written the song yet. So when I heard the news, I went to the back of the bus and just wrote down in prose that recitation that I did, and it just came naturally to sing a part of Loving You to that, because I was such an Elvis fan, and I think he inspired me. He and Brenda Lee inspired me more than any other music people to become a singer. But, you know, the dream was already in my heart, but they just kind of nurtured it. And so I just wrote that tribute to him, and it felt right to sing part of Loving You to it, and then I got permission to do that, you know, from the writers of Loving You, because I didn't change any of their lyrics. I just left some out, and, you know, so I could do that recitation.
And did you record it with the Jordanaires, or were they added later?
No, I recorded it with them. I'm pretty sure we did it together.
We had Ray Walker on our
show
a few months ago.
You had them on?
I say we had Ray Walker on our show a few months ago, and he's the last remaining member of the original Jordanaires there.
Yeah, it was so right to have them sing on it because of Elvis, you know.
Well, Eric, would you do us a favor and play that so people can listen to the fabulous recitation that Donna wrote and the song Loving You?
You bet.
I will spend my whole life through loving you, just loving you. Winter, summer, springtime too. Loving you, loving you makes no difference where I go or what I do. You know that I'll always be loving you.
guess a lot of us thought you were bigger than life, and it just never occurred to us that you would ever die like the rest of us. And it's impossible to put into words all that you've meant to us, but to many, you were the American dream. Besides JFK, you were the only hero some of us ever had. In an age that said we should suppress our feelings, you freed us from some of the prejudices the previous generation was about to pass on to us. In every song you sang of life, you filled our hearts with love and emotions that touched feelings in us that we'd kept hidden for a long time, helping us to get to know ourselves, telling us it's all right to feel, to be the way we are, that self-expression is a God-given right. You did for a whole generation something we couldn't do for ourselves. And because you communicated the depth of your feelings and interpreted ours so well, you were an extension of us, and we wanted everything for you. I guess we could say you were the heart and soul of and to one generation. You also represented a part of us that we weren't sure of, that we dreamed of being. You made us aware of our own potential, even though we knew we might never find the secret in ourselves for reaching it, as you did. But you showed us it could be done, and so excluded yourself from society to preserve the mystery that made you that American dream. I guess that's why we put you on a pedestal so high that you could do no wrong. We didn't want you to be subject to human ills as we were. We didn't want to know you any better than we did. We wanted you to be perfect, and telling us something that spoiled our image of you would be worse than finding out for the first time there was no Santa Claus. But now the call has come, and fate says your time is up, and we can't believe you're gone. It seems like the world ought to stop moving, or that life shouldn't go on. But it does, and we will, till our time comes. And that's reality, I guess, reminding us of our own unimportance. That life is here, life is gone, just like that, even for those who seemingly have everything. And so a part of us has died with you. But the monument we leave to you is not made of stone, but of love. It's a big empty space in our hearts that was reserved for only you, that no one else can ever feel. What was once a dream is now a memory. What was once a reality is now a dream. But the impact you had on our world will last until the last life you touched is gone. We're sure gonna miss you, and nobody will ever take your place.
Go ahead, Jerry.
There probably were thousands of Elvis tributes that came out after August of 1977. That is the best one of them all.
Oh, thank you, Jerry.
Oh, it's just fantastic. How does a school teacher who has no idea she's going to be a recording artist carve out such an incredible career like you did?
Well, I don't know. Things just kind of happened, you know.
Well, take us back. Take us back to you teaching school and what crossed your mind, and you started recording in 1964. So how did it all come about?
Well, it seemed like I always wanted to be a singer. And, you know, that's as far as my little dream went, and I just kind of held it in my heart. But I also wanted to be a teacher, so, you know, so my mother and daddy would think I had a real job. So I achieved that first. You know, that's easy because you just go to college and major in something and then get your job and go on. And I had a great time teaching. And in 1972, the record was, well, first, here's a little secret, I think, about success, or at least in my case. I was a big smoker. I mean, I smoked like 3 or 4 packs a day.
Ooh.
I was a serious addict.
Wow.
And I had been praying that I, you know, could be a singer. But I didn't have any experience much. You know, I'd sung in church when I was a little girl, but and talent shows and when I was in college, high school and college and stuff. But I really didn't have, you know, any basic experience. And so I thought, well, I need to find a way. So I thought, well, maybe I could write my own songs. So I had met, through my brother, I had met a guy named Stan Silver, who later became my husband.
Lucky guy.
Anyway, and so somebody gave me his number. They said he was looking for a girl to record demos. So I called him up and made an appointment, and he recorded me, and he said, "You're country." I'd never thought of that. Isn't that funny? I knew that I'd grown up in the country, but I never really categorized music. Anyway, so I said, "Well, will you teach me to play the guitar if I learn really fast and I'm not a pain, and take too much of your time?" And he said, "Sure." So he gave me an old guitar, and he taught me chords and stuff, on the guitar. And I started writing my own songs. And Funny Face was actually one of the first songs I ever wrote. I wrote 16 verses to it. Can you tell I was a novice? Anyway, and I had, so I was still smoking, okay? And this is part of the story, because it seemed like something or God was saying to me, well, you're praying to become a singer, but you're destroying what you need to do to become a singer, like your voice. So I started trying to quit, and I quit probably 9 million times, and finally it just took. And as soon as I quit smoking, my dream came true. It was like I had written Happiest Girl and Funny Face. We had gone to Nashville and recorded them, and a few other sides. And I went back to teaching, and Stan stayed in Nashville and shopped the record around, and Dot Records picked it up, and they gave me a chance. So I'm thankful, blessed, and I really think that sometimes for some people there is sacrifice involved to making a dream come true. In my case, I think it really was important. I don't know. That's just something for, other people to ponder. If they are doing something that is a major roadblock to making their dream come true, it's just a consideration.
Well, that's an amazing story, and of course, the part of it about the smoking, I didn't even know from the times that we talked before. So that's really good to hear how you finally licked that, and when you did, obviously everything changed for you.
It did. I wanted to smoke to have a smoky voice, and I got a kind of a little smoky kind of voice. But then reality hit in, and I went to a doctor once in Inglewood, I think, and this was when I was visiting my brother in California. I lived in North Carolina then.
Mount Airy.
Yeah, and the doctor said, they put me up on this table, and he felt of my feet, and he said, how many, and I was about 16 years old, he said, how many packs of cigarettes do you smoke a day? And I said, how do you know I smoke any? He said, well, your feet are just freezing. And it was June. So he said, young lady, you will die a young death if you don't quit smoking. So he planted that seed. Maybe, Jerry, this is a message for smokers out there. I don't know, because I keep kind of going that way. But he said, you're going to die a young death if you don't quit smoking. And he planted the seed, but it took me, a couple of years or several years after that for it to, come full circle.
Well, I'm so proud of you, more so than even before.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's one of my biggest achievements. And then in June of 72, I was still teaching, and Happiest Girl was number one. I used to always say it was going to number one, but a writer corrected me once. He said, you always say it was going to number one, but it was already number one. So I took his word for it. I guess it was number one.
And it turned out to be the number one record of the entire year, too.
It did, and that was just such a blessing, and I had to make the decision then whether to quit teaching, turn in my resignation, and, go on the road. And my first gig was with Roy Clark in Las Vegas.
Right.
In June, and I said, well, if you will let me at least give my exams to my kids, and let me correct those papers, and send you the grades from Las Vegas, we can work this out if you will let me out of school 3 days early. And so everybody agreed, and it was a done deal. So
well, it was convenient because Roy and you were both on dot at the time, too.
that's true.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from him, Jerry. He's just such an entertainer, and his show was so put together, you know, and so well-rounded. And I didn't know anything about what I was doing, really, because I'd been teaching school. I mean, I had worked a few clubs in Southern California, like the Palomino Club and you know, 2 or 3 other places, or maybe more than that. I mean, I worked when I could. I did have an agent that, you know, booked me in like Sacramento and places like that. But I didn't make much money. I spent too much money on my clothes. But I did get experience. You know, I had to figure out what I wanted to look like, what kind of songs to do to build a show. And it was fun, and it was, you know, you can just teach yourself if you just go out there and be brave.
Well, speaking of major decisions that need to be made, let's back up to 1964 when you, Yvonne Vaughn, had your first record on Faber, and it came out credited to Yvonne Vaughn. Then your next record, 1 year later, came out credited to Vonnie Vale, and then the next one came out Yvonne Vaughn again. And then in 1982, the first one said Donna Fargo. How did you come upon that?
1972. Well, actually, we were in Phoenix at the time, trying to. One of those first songs that I wrote was called "Would You Believe a Lifetime?" And
that's the first one that was credited to Donna Fargo.
Okay. Well, see, we were in the studio, and they said, we're getting ready to make this label. You need to probably change your name because it's too hard to, you know, if they might pronounce it Yvonne Vaughn or Y Vaughn or Yvonne or whatever. So yeah. You need a simple name. So this guy was standing around. He was a stunt man from the studios in L.A., a friend of Biff Colley's, who promoted this record.
Oh, I knew Biff from KFOX.
Yeah, and Don Sessions. Anyway, so and he said, I used to know a lovely lady named Donna Fargo, and I always thought it was a great name. And there were about 10 of us, I guess, standing around, and I said, okay with me. It's easy to pronounce. If they mispronounce that, man, it would be deliberate. So that's how Donna Fargo was born. The name was just as simple as that, and they wanted something kind of Western sounding, you know, because back then they called it country Western music. So those other names, now you remember a song I wrote called Daddy. I said I've done changed my name so many times I don't even know who I am. Well, that was what that was all about, because we were playing around with different names, you know, and trying to, you know, sing my own material, or Stan would record me with somebody else's songs. That he was a publisher, so he had plenty of songs.
And then they go and they make a movie and a TV series named after you, Fargo.
Oh, I never saw that movie.
It was very good.
I did have my own TV show called The Donna Fargo Show. When was that?
Must have been in the 70s.
1978. It was 1978. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there are some clips from that on YouTube, and I have watched some of them, and it was great to see you in a different line, I guess you could say, instead of being on the record. Here we are watching you in front of the camera, and you did that very, very well.
Well, thank you. I really appreciated the opportunity. The way that came about was Jim Halsey booked the Oak Ridge Boys and Mill Tillis and me and many people, you know.
Sure.
So we were doing a show at Carnegie Hall. I really thought I had arrived when I played Carnegie Hall. Of course, I would have, too, with the Opry. But I think, I played the Opry first. But Carnegie Hall was a big deal, you know.
Of course.
So somebody came to that show, and then they approached Mr. Halsey about doing a TV show with me. And I said, well, I would do it for a year, but I really like the road, and I thought that you kind of lost your career if you stayed on TV too long, but, that's a matter of opinion. But so anyway, we did that, and it was exciting, and I loved it. I learned a lot.
Well, look how far you've come. Grand Ole Opry, Carnegie Hall, on our radio show. My goodness.
Yeah, this is it.
you have broken through the glass ceiling.
That's right. Shattered it.
Are you ready for the big news that I tried to tell you about and tease you about yesterday when we talked?
That kept me awake.
The 45 RPM single was introduced by RCA in early 1949. From 1949, for the next 40 years, all the way through 89, that's what we call the vinyl era, because after that, the vinyl was kind of fading away, and everything was becoming digitals and CDs and streaming and internet and all that. So for that 40-year vinyl era, there's only one vocalist, male or female, whose first 4 charted hits were all number 1.
Really?
No one else in the history of the vinyl era, either male or female, as a solo artist, was able to have their first 4 charted hits be number 1, and in your case, on the country chart. They are The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA, Funny Face, Superman, and You Were Always There. All consecutive number 1s. And the next one, Little Girl Gone, got up to number 2. It could have been the 5th one if it would have moved up one more notch. However, Charlie Rich and The Most Beautiful Girl in the World was just ahead of you, and so that didn't make number 1. But the 4 in a row.
Wow.
No
that's
other
impressive.
male or female singer in the entire vinyl era can claim that. Now, there is one group who equaled it, and that was the Jackson 5. When they first came out in 1969, their first 4 records, I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There, they were also their first 4 charted hits, and they were all number 1. So you and the Jackson 5 are the only recording artist in the entire vinyl era that we can say that about, and think of all the mega stars and superstars and all the giants of the industry, and they can't compare with what you did.
That's amazing. Well,
you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know that.
Now you've
what
got
source
now
did you
you've got
use?
something else to add to your many, many accomplishments.
That's right.
And
what source did you use, Jerry?
Oh, this is where I should really deserve a lot of credit here. I reviewed the music history of over 5,000 musicians from that period before I was able to say with absolute certainty that this is true. I went through all the pop, all the R&B, and all of the country charts for that entire period, looking at each artist and what happened with their first charted hit and on. And there were several that had 2 hits in a row that were number 1. Webb Pierce had 3 back in 1952, but not 4. You had 4.
Did you use Record World, Billboard, or Cashbox?
All of them. All 3 of them.
Huh. So, Little Girl Gone wasn't number 1 on either of the 3?
No. Little Girl Gone was number 2 on Billboard, number 3 on Cashbox, and number 3 on Record World.
Okay. Then.
Yeah. So you see, I really did my homework.
You sure did.
I wanted you to know this because this is an extraordinary thing to say about anyone, and it just happens to be little old you.
Little old me. I was going to say fat.
Well, Donna, I am so happy to have you on the show today. I know that you and I are going to be talking again and again because we love each other. We know that.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be fun. I want people to get this CD, Donna Fargo, That Was Yesterday. It's out with a great collection of songs that she did for Warner Brothers. And just follow this lady as she goes around the country and performs. I know you're still touring occasionally, right?
Well, no, I'm doing mostly writing projects, Jerry. I write for Blue Mountain Arts. I've written 7 inspirational books, and I write greeting cards for them, and I have a new calendar out That's a 2017 calendar called Celebrate Every Day.
Mm-hmm.
And a new book out called My Prayer for You, My Friend, and this new CD. So I've just come from book signings in North Carolina, my hometown of Mount Airy, where I was the Grand Marshal in a Christmas parade, and then we had some book signings, and it was very exciting, and it was so nice to see all the people in my hometown. I'm very fortunate to have grown up there, and a lot of people call it Mayberry because of Andy Griffith, because it was Andy's hometown, too.
Well, he's from North Carolina. Well, the reason I thought that you were still
Jerry,
performing is because I knew you were there just recently.
We're going to have to leave it there. We're unfortunately out of time, but what a great conversation.
Oh, fantastic, Donna. Thank you so much, and you and I will be talking soon.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I love you.
Love you, too. Bye-bye.
Jerry, do we know who's lined up for next week?
Next week is Ron Dante.
Fantastic. Everybody tune in for another edition of Viva ENT next week.
Funny face, I love you. Funny face, I need you. My whole world's wrapped up